Isn't it strange? I'd give a lot to undo it.
Why don't you let me go then?
Don't be absurd. Is there any other wish I can grant?
Yes.
What is it?
I'd like to share my last few hours on Earth with you.
Do you think you can fool me as easily as you did the adjutant?
I'd give you my word of honor that I no longer want anything but to be with you.
It's easy to grant you almost anything. I think I'm falling madly in love with you.
Meow meow, listening people.
Meow meow, I guess.
Meow? Meow? Meow, Bartek, how are you doing?
Good, Ryan. Which is you, meow.
Meow. It's very important that we're mewing at the start of this podcast, because this was a very meow-fest film. Oh, that's you purring. I thought that was you hissing at the start of that. You just really felt like you were going...
I was actually doing that a little bit because I was trying to get into the rhythm with the tongue.
You have to warm up the purr.
Yeah, I was like, why aren't I doing the thing? And then I started doing the thing, like, oh, there we go.
You haven't done your vocal exercises beforehand. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Like just now I turned away from the mic.
Bartek's doing some ASMR for us again.
I've never actually tried purring before, so that's
aren't you? Yeah, it felt great. I felt it in my larynx all the way from over here. Did you know that you can fracture your larynx? Isn't that interesting? Just singers can fracture their larynxes. Isn't that fun?
They should stop singing.
It's made out of cartilage, yet you can fracture it. Isn't that great? But we are here today on this podcast called Spit and Polish Presents to talk about movies. We are both spitting young gentlemen who both happen to be Polish. We talk about Polish things. We feel Polish things. We love Polish things. It's in our history. It's in our genes.
Yeah, we love Polish politics, Polish lectors.
Yeah, aren't they the same? Aren't they the same?
Deep, Ryan.
It's as deep as me asking what was Poland's stance during Vietnam War. Very many questions asked here because we talk about films that come recommended. We have our show Pictures Powwow, the original PP. No, not Polish politics. Pictures Powwow. That's the original PP. Not patron pick. No. Not Polish politics, but Pictures Powwow.
Damn.
Yeah, that's right. Damn Daniel, indeed.
You're really, being a contrarian to something.
I'm not. I'm being a truther. I'm being a truther on this podcast because I believe that we talk about films that come recommended from someone. One week it will be a recommendation from myself. Then the next week it will be a recommendation from you, the listening people out there who are listening to this podcast. And then after that, Bartek recommends a movie to us that we talk about. And it actually went that way. I recommended a film. Then next time it will be you, the listening people. Then after that, Bartek. Yeah, that's right. Bartek gets to choose. And
it's like there's an order.
There is an order. I may be a rebel, but I love order.
You might be a rebel, but when they say order in the court, Ryan's like, this is my favorite part.
I don't object. And today we are talking about an older film, a film from 1931 called Dishonored, starring Marlene Dietrich and a whole gaggle of other people. This is a film that everyone, you should go and check for yourself. It is available online, readily available. It is out there. You can buy it or you can find it on the Internet Archive, movie archive place. Mm-hmm. That's where you and I both watched it, I would say. Yes,
that's where I got my copy.
That's where I got my copy as well. So Criterion has a copy of this film. It looks spick and span and very pretty and nice. But how would you, Bartek, summarize this film to someone if you were just trying to get them interested in maybe checking it out?
The general synopsis of this one is that our main character is this widow, lady whose husband died as part of a military service. And she has been recruited by the Austrian Secret Service to be a spy.
This is set during World War I time as well.
Yes, that's true. It's from 1931, but it's set during like 1915. Mm-hmm. A spy who will try and who will investigate persons of interest who are people that are part of the Austrian army but might be sympathizers or just straight up spies themselves, and to root them out, get like proof, and then have them arrested.
She has to play chicken with some rascally Russians and or Russian sympathizers. Mm-hmm. Very interesting film. I was the one that suggested this. I had not seen this before, but it was on my watch list because this is an actress, the lead, Marlene Dietrich, who's someone I'm aware of. I find her very interesting, but I've never watched a film of hers. I was going through her catalogue of work, and there were a few that leapt out to me, but this is one of those films that leapt out. This was a part of a series of movies she did with this director as well. So I wanted to see one that was in kind of like the middle period. I think this was their third or fourth film that they did together. Second one where she did it with this cat as well.
Yeah, I read that trivia.
So I wanted to see what this team looked like after they had a couple of films already on the go. That kind of sensation of this is the more crystalline version of this. And I didn't know too much about the plot. I knew the basics of like it was set during this period of time, Austrians versus Russians. I didn't even know until just before I recommended it last time that this was an English language movie. I thought...
Yeah, you said it was Austrian.
I thought it was an Austrian movie, and then I was like, oh, but it is actually American, by the way.
Paramount Pictures, I think. It was
Paramount Pictures. I can't remember if I said that at the end of the last episode or not, but it was that thing of like, oh, right, this is an American movie, surprisingly. It just feels like it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But it is. And so, yes, that is my history with this film. And again, everyone, please make sure to watch this because we're going to get into the spoils of it. And this does have twists and turns, and it is a bit of a thrill ride. But how to define it? Would you define it as a political thriller? I don't know. It's got a bit of everything going on, this movie does.
It's like a pre-code spy film.
So what has been your experiences with this? Any knowledge?
No, it was pretty much zilch for me on this one. Yeah, once you get further back in the 20th century, like there's only a couple of films that I've really heard much about. Even with this one, now that I've seen it, I don't know necessarily if it's had any like notable, like, oh, that's obviously inspired by Dishonored, things like that. But yeah, it was an interesting one to check out.
I'm very thrilled by this lead performance. It's what I went into this for, and she delivers. She's very entertaining. She's very fun. She's very playful. She's very sexy. She's very dangerous. There's a level of pomp and camp to this film.
The film very much complements what she's doing.
But what did you feel about this movie overall? You said you knew zilch. You didn't know much about it. So what was your impressions of it?
So it didn't feel too much like Ashes and Diamonds, the film that we did last episode, but the ending kind of brought back some feelings from that film where it felt like the ending really kind of, I don't know if recontextualized the whole film's the right word, but it really kind of made everything tie together for me. Seeing like the big point of this film, because it is very melancholic throughout. It feels like it's kind of exploring this character's true feelings, true allegiance. And once you get the ending, you know, it really solidifies like the big point of this character's journey.
And yeah, it is hard not to jump straight to that ending because it is still a bit surprising what they showed as well. I was a bit taken aback that they showed the ending the way that they did. I was expecting it to be more of a case of, you know what happens here, but they actually go there, which I found weirdly refreshing, even though this is a film from 1931 and we've seen depictions of violence many times over in movies since then. Just the way that it was demonstrated and presented, and because of my biased expectations of that they wouldn't go there in this, I was still taken aback.
It's an old Hollywood film, so you feel like, oh, it's going to shield you from some of the more horrific things, but it's actually kind of before those standards were put in place, I think. Yeah.
But the film Dishonored has a very interesting relationship with the genres that it's tapping into, because as you said, this is like a pre-code spy movie, but it doesn't do a lot of the things that you'd expect a spy movie to do or a thriller to do.
Bit of film noir.
A bit of film noir. There's obviously war stuff happening, like this war story as well. And
and it's kind of, the main character's kind of like a femme fatale archetype in a way, but she's also the main character. She's not, an antagonist or anything.
And she's
like
a
that.
victim too.
Yeah, so it plays around with that kind of archetype.
When I read the description of this, it was very much like this woman who's an elite, like this woman who's a spy must go and use her seductress ways to fool the Russians. And I'm thinking going in, okay, she's a seasoned veteran spy and she knows how to do this. And it's Marlene Dietrich. She's a very sexy lady and she has this allure. Like you look at any photos of her and you can just see like, oh, her style, that image, even in this movie, the way she looks, still very influential today.
You can see yourself expecting to start this film and learning about this character who's already been doing this for a while and really convincing you that she's been doing this for a while.
So I was pleasantly surprised that it's not that at all. She is not this seasoned veteran of this industry, and she's not like this mastermind Black Widow spy type. She's not the honeypot sensation, but she has to do that, and you see her kind of playfully fall into it and then be horrified at when she's good at it.
Yeah, she's literally just a citizen that was outside at the start of the film.
She's just someone who wants to play the piano and be left alone. Like that's her character. It's quite the way that this film subverts expectations of what we would come to expect of this story and this setting and this character. The sympathy that it has for the people that she has to weasel out in a weird way. Like anytime she is somewhat successful in her mission to find people, you feel very bad for these people that she's getting the hit on. And there are people who die or who do manage to get away in this film, and you're almost like, I would watch their story as well. Like it's very interesting how this film humanizes pretty much most of these characters while still vilifying the insidious governmental systems that forced everyone into the positions they're in.
It's got a rule of 3, right? There's like 3 people that she has arrested. And the first one's like, oh, it was actually not a bad person. They were just testing you. Then the second one is, the first job. It's like, oh, you did it successfully, and, it ends kind of wistfully. And then the third one is like the majority of the film where, that's where the stakes are raised and like the emotions are really questioned.
So what aspects do you want to dive into first with this? What are the things that are leaping out to you that you want to talk about?
I guess since we are talking about the main character, just really establishing who she is early on and seeing that be a consistent thing but also something explored. So we are introduced to her, and there's many references to the fact like we just found her on the street because literally like she was out there, and one of the Secret Services people who happened to be there was like, I think you might be a good candidate. Let me do a test on you. And he finds like, yes, she loves her country. She loves Austria. She'll be a great spy, and, hires her on. And you see how the very simple way that she was behaving in that first sequence is followed up on, where, at that point she didn't know that she was being tested. It was just like, oh, I'm talking my way around you. I'm discovering who you are. And when I discover that you are, against Austria, I call for constable to come arrest you. And then seeing how once she's put in a more professional context, she's not only still behaving in a very similar way, but also a bit more purposeful. Searching around the room, hearing something that the butler says as like a little clue.
But she's also caught several times in this movie for being a spy herself. Yeah, she's not a success story with this. She's just a civilian thrown into this and expected to succeed, but she gets found out by pretty much every single person that she's tailing, or that she's seducing, or that she's trying to trap herself.
And later on, like, the antagonist of the film even calls out like all these little tells, like, oh, I saw your iconic cat just wandering around this base, so I knew you were nearby.
It is an iconic cat. It's a very specific
It was reminding me of the dog from The Thin Man, where it's like, oh yeah, they really liked animals.
It's hilarious. I thought of The Thin Man during a lot of this film, because we're talking about the melancholy and like the horrors of institutionalized governments and women being forced into like these personas and the femme fatale. This film is also filled with just snappy dialogue. Everyone talks at like 1,000,000 miles per hour. They've got all of this. They're grabbing each other, and like it's almost like there's a lot of dance in this movie without dancing. There's just so many moments where people swoon and grab each other and swirl around the room, and there's just a frenetic energy. I don't even know how this film manages to do this. We've had this so many times over the years, but it's a film with a very slow, deliberate pace, and yet it feels like it's frenetic and crackles and pops and just zip, zip, zap all over the place. It's such a marvelous, dazzling feature to watch how it can manage both of those things at the same time, and yet it all comes together because the main person that she's pursuing, they have fantastic chemistry.
Yeah.
You just want to watch those two antagonize and yet flirt with each other for 2 hours, but that's only like a small sliver of the movie. It's only a little bit of the film, and yet I would watch that. But it did make me think of The Thin Man, where you just have like, here's the genre setup, and now you're going to have the fun, like, quirky, dysfunctional characters at the center of it going through the motions of that. And we kind of have that here, where with these two characters, even though they're like opposed to one another and they're trying to outdo one another, there is that thing where it's like she as a person, she's trying to put on these airs of like, I've got it together, I'm actually like very dominant and in charge. But then when push comes to shove and he shows his true colors and what he's capable of, you see her horrified at how much out of her element she is. It's just it's weird to say, but this movie is also very fun and funny.
They're very playful. Like in the film kind of drops it a little bit in the scene where he goes to her apartment and you know he reveals like, I know exactly what you're doing.
We saw him go through a coat.
Yeah, I'm billion steps ahead of you in all these ways. And at the end of that scene, he seemed very cold, and it felt like, oh, this is his true face. But then when they reunite again later on, when she's like
in disguise.
Intercepted was the word I was thinking. Intercepted his, little base there. You can see that he just, it feels very natural for him to go back to that playfulness, even when he has an inkling that like, okay, something's up. Because
he knows something's up and he's intrigued and excited by it. Here you are with your iconic cat. Get those clothes off. Just take all those clothes off. And then they have like this wonderful little bit where it's like, do you still want me to keep getting unchanged? It's like, no, play the piano.
You're going to be executed in the morning, but like, let's have fun until then.
It's really great because the film wisely chooses to touch upon the delicate political machinations of the setting and of these two sides. It touches it enough where you get the seriousness of it, but not too much so when you can't have these moments between the two characters, because it's like, this is made in 1931 and it's going back to the First World War era, which was a very murky, complicated, intricate, interplay of all of these nations deciding eventually to go to war with one another and to fight one another, and like the, inhumanity of it all. And this film like does recognize that, but it has enough distance where we can see this Austrian and this Russian like have this back and forth with one another in a way that feels like enjoyable without it being bogged down by like the realities of where they are both siding. And I don't know, it's just one of those things, especially when you think about like when this was made, 1931. If they made this film 1941,
yeah. You brought up
we wouldn't be able to have it in this way.
You brought up early in this episode that it's set in 1915, and it really kind of threw me back. Like, yeah, it was, because I just kept thinking like, oh man, this was made like Hitler was alive, World War II was less than a decade away, and I was just thinking about all of that.
They were making M in Germany at the time.
Yeah, the same year, I think.
Yeah.
And then, you just mentioned now that it's set in 1915 and it's a different perspective, and I was trying to think back, like, have I actually seen anything set specifically during and around World War One that didn't follow an English-speaking nation.
Isn't that interesting?
Like, I'm kind of struggling to think of something.
Isn't that interesting, huh?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I'm trying to think back on media that I have seen that isn't from, like, the English speaking perspective on it. Like, obviously we've watched Blackadder, goes forth, which is like the greatest World War One TV series. I think it's fair to say.
And again, English speaking.
I'm trying to recall. Yeah, it's actually a good question. Parts of Glory, I think, Stanley Kubrick. I think that was from the Italians. It's been a little while since I've watched it, but I think. But no, it's a good question. But it's an interesting period of history, and it was an interesting period of history when this film was made. And like you said, Hitler's alive at this time. The Second World War hasn't kicked off when they're making this. The lead actress is German, or Prussian.
Yeah. The director's got a very German name, like Josef von Sternberg.
Yeah, there's a lot of accents in this movie that are authentic accents of Europeans, which is again why I was thrown by this is an American movie, and yet most of this is not only set in Europe, but most of these actors are from those areas, which I'm so accustomed to. Oh, let's do Casablanca, and we have pretty much every actor in there either be American or the Germans we've exported over. Well, yeah, Claude Rains is gonna play the French guy because his name's Claude Rains. It's but does he sound French? God no, but it's Claude Rains, so you gotta accept it, motherfucker.
It was interesting, this one. I don't want this to sound like a backhand compliment or anything, but the film's pretty much entirely in English, and none of the actors are like English or American, I don't think. So you do have, their very accented English dialogue, and at times it does sound a little bit, wooden or unnatural. Well, actually, no, contradicting myself, it did sound natural. It just didn't sound like, this is like an American putting on an accent.
What I came
felt
to
authentic.
What I came to it with is also what we saw in films like The Man Who Laughs or M, or even Dr. Caligari and things like that, which is we are seeing the German and or European acting style, but in an English language movie in the talkies just starting up in America, where what people love about Marlene Dietrich here is her physicality, her sensuality, that voice. There's so many moments of this movie that you can't put on screen today because she's just voguing to the camera. But you know what? I love it. She's gorgeous, she's sexy, she's fun, she's dangerous, she's alive. But what she's doing here is very similar to what we saw in those other movies I mentioned, but just in a different context. Like, she's doing the sensual femme fatale-esque type performance of that, but it's a very European style way of acting in comparison to what we've seen of the Americans doing these type of things at this time period.
Yeah. Many years ago on the podcast, this was an example you would always use, but every time we brought up Christoph Waltz, you would always talk about like, he's German, right?
I'm pretty sure. Or Austrian.
Yeah. He's from somewhere in Europe. But every time he speaks English, he speaks in a very enunciated way, and it really complements like the characters he plays. Like when he was in Inglourious Bastards, it made him more menacing.
Yeah.
And even in the film that we did that had him in it, the Green Hornet, even though that was a very silly, Seth Rogen movie, and he played a kind of character who was very insecure in his evil, it did kind of add to the authentic, like, foreignness of him.
Mads Mikkelsen, another one, where whenever we see him in English language movies, there's a certain rhythmic, almost lyrical quality, not only to the voice, but to the physicality that you see stand out from the American or English-speaking counterparts. There's a different school of physical acting as well as vocal inflections, which I think is what we're seeing in this movie. Because so much of the thing of this, too, is the audio. There's a lot of silence. There's a lot of silence in this movie. There's very minimal uses of music, let alone diegetic sounds or just or atmospheric sounds. There's a lot of just, let's linger on almost eerie silence of just seeing these characters look at each other.
There were so many points in the film where I literally thought like, oh, I guess they must have like muted the audio when they were editing or whatever techniques they would have used at the time. But then a character would like tap a wall and there'd be a sound like, no, it's just really quiet.
Because the stillness of this is what really hits you.
Yeah. In fact, I remembered, because I downloaded this film from the archive website pretty much as soon as I got home from that last week's recording. And I skimmed through it just to like confirm like, okay, this works, subtitles are synced. Is this a silent film? Because I didn't know. And there were so many points where I didn't hear a single thing. I'm like, is this like a super silent film? And then I heard someone talk and there were no subtitles, but I had to listen really closely to tell like what language they were speaking. Like, oh, it is in English.
Yeah. What I think is so fascinating too about like this stillness and this silence is it the dynamic it's having with what the story setup is. If you made this a decade later or today, this would be much more like nail-biting, action-packed, like tick, 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 tick. You know, could you imagine Hitchcock's hands on this movie? There would be a very different level of like getting the audience tense. But the way that this film approaches it still manages to achieve that, but through drastically different means. This is a love story, war story, or thriller, noir. Like it's got all these things going on, and it manages to hit a lot of those notes and beats that those types of films do, but in a very serene way about it. It's very quiet,
serene and melancholic, definitely,
but also funny. There's just the whole set piece where it's like, now we're going to watch this woman who's been complimented, like who's like a cleaner woman, get complimented how sexy she is. Now we're going to follow her story where she's getting drunk and meowing all over the place. That's why I meowed at the start of this episode, because there was a whole like 5-minute scene where most of the lines were meow, meow.
Yeah,
it's very weird.
It's a lot more serious in the Secret Service scenes. But then once she's out and she's trying to, do her social wiles against the antagonists of the film, that's where the film suddenly gets fun. And then when you get to the very ending of the film and it kind of, draws the line in the sand, vilifying the Secret Service characters, it kind of makes a bit more sense of like, oh yeah, that's why they were so cold throughout the film.
Oh yes, it makes complete sense, and we get the fact that she's a widow, but also the lines of dialogue throughout the movie that thousands of men are getting killed, flippantly, and if you just do your duty, then that won't happen. So don't question, don't deviate, do your duty, and it'll be fine. Does your duty involve getting more young men killed? Yes, it does. But don't question it, because you're here to save lives. It's like,
yeah, and
you can see that contradiction start to nick away at her throughout the film as well. Like you can see it as she's having to hand in these people, and they're just going to be arrested or kill themselves or die or whatever the outcome is.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't go back and check on it again. But like the film opens with like some exposition about like, this is the story of da 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 da.
The greatest spy, if it wasn't for that she's a woman.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. X-29. She would have been history's 27, sorry. She would have been history's greatest spy if not for the fact she was a woman. And, that line kind of sticks with you like, oh, there's a bit of sexism there, but also like, where's this going? And then at the ending, you see like, oh, okay, there's a very sympathetic thing. And honestly, especially from our perspective now, like kind of a noble thing, kind of very human thing. And so you think of that third person narration at the beginning as being a bit more of a, not necessarily first person, but like, the type of person that would have written that.
It's very pointed.
Yeah, it's not from the filmmaker's perspective. It's very much from
the universe.
Yeah, the universe itself.
There's all of these visual callbacks that are not like cinema, but like character action visual things, like the way that she would apply lipstick, or the veil that she would wear, or the way that she would adjust her stockings. And they kept coming back again and again. And then when we get to the ending, that's what she does. It's almost like her act of defiance or like acceptance of like, here I am. I'm going to, my execution got halted for a moment because one person stood up and said, no, I'm going to reapply my lipstick. I'm going to reapply my veil. I'm going to adjust my stocking like she did in the very first scene when the Secret Service approached her. Like, there's this mirroring happening there. And you can see how much the character has evolved, but in the way that she's physically reenacting the things that defined her when we first met her.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's like, flipping the bird at them in a way, but also kind of accepting her fate with this level of dignity. Like, I'm approaching this on my terms. I wipe your tears with the blindfold. I don't need the blindfold.
Yeah. Thinking back on this character, I see it less as they developed through the film as more they were always this way, or they stayed true to what they always were, and that's, her real beauty.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, that's a very good way to describe it. We see her get challenged throughout it, and it just more reaffirms the things that are underneath that she hasn't had to. Quite. I mean, when we say
really
that
highlighting,
when we say she was a person on the street, also she wasn't like a nice person on the street at the beginning. She was talking mad shit at the start. Too.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like she was just like ho ho hum. I'm just a normal little. No, she was talking shit.
Yeah, I was using the film's words because she was like a woman from the street, and then someone's like, we did find her on the street.
Yeah, but she caught their attention because she was she had a personality.
Yeah.
She had verve.
What was it that happened at the beginning? Like, someone's dead body was found, and all of the rubberneckers were commenting on it, and she's the one that had like the very different take where it's like, I don't fear death. I can't remember exactly what her dialogue
and there's
was.
this comment about like nothing's getting done about it and things like that. But yeah, it was. Oh man, I watched this only this morning. And I watched it and I enjoyed it, and I thought, oh yeah, this is interesting. It didn't wow me too much, but I've had a couple of hours since I've watched it, and just these little things keep growing and growing and growing in my appreciation and overall affection for the movie. The constant use of her sitting at the piano and playing the piano, I really like that too. It's just, and I like how she had the back and forth about like how I wrote that myself. I worked so hard on that, and now it's gone to ash.
Yeah, there was a recurring thing of like, I don't know if it happened every single time, but whenever she would play the piano, it would affect nearby men in some way. Like, it would draw them to her. It would like catch them off guard. I think maybe at the end, like, she was playing the piano, and that's when the guard came in to take her to her firing.
Yes.
Yeah, so there was, a little bit of a siren song thing going on there.
There was something, the allure of it, not just her stunning eyebrows. She gave herself away so many times, like when she went to the bar and he's playing the roulette wheel and all of that, and she's like, bet on number 27, and that's her code name.
I didn't even think of that until just before you said it.
She couldn't think of another. That's her number, so that's the number she went with.
Yeah.
X27. Yeah, bet it on 27, and then
she was close, like a red 26 or something.
Yeah, I think it was black 26.
Black 26.
But he wanted his kiss, but then he didn't, and then I did also like, since this was World War I era, a lot of the soldiers had swords on them.
Yeah.
And that became a very terrifying moment when she did drug him just a couple of drops of sleep, and he was awake enough to grab out his sword and come after her, and it was shot in a POV for a good portion of it. The film's, visually speaking, doesn't get too flashy. It's very mannered in the presentation, but for that moment, that was when they stepped up a notch and showed the physical level of threat before her, but then also how she could get away from him. But it was that thing of like, as much as we like these two characters, as much as they are fun, they're both threats to one another at the end of the day. Like, she can drug him and he can fucking stab her. Like, that's... Never forget, like, there is this power imbalance between the two.
Yeah, and that was a really great moment in the film where you really jumped from one extreme to the other, where it's like, oh, we just gotten drunk, we just had a drink, we're still in, like, smiley mode, and I just realized what you're doing. Stand up, pull out the sword, and I think...
And he's like, do you think you can get out of here? All of that.
Yeah, and the swords have been used multiple times in this film before. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the only scene where the intention of the sword is to actually hurt someone.
Mhm.
Because it's always been
She
used for
used
other
it as
things.
a mirror in one of the scenes later.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
pretty sure.
yeah. The nice guard who doesn't want to execute her is like, oh, could you give me a mirror? And like the best he can do is like, oh, the reflection of my sword. And then obviously the firing squad, you have to go
Yep.
wave it to indicate. But yeah, I think that's the only scene with him.
And
where,
it stands out.
Yeah.
It stands out as a very... Did you feel... Okay, so what did you think the outcome of this film was going to be, and did it meet your expectations? Because it does have the love story or romance or attraction. There's an attraction between them. There's at least a chemistry there. And yet it always keeps going back to, but they are rival. They are opposing one another. And then we get to the moment near the end where it's like she has to choose her duty or choose something more.
Yeah, I didn't have it as strong, the whole notion of like, oh, this is, old Hollywood film, there has to be like an upbeat ending or something like that. I felt like it could go either way. I did think that it would be a little bit more of a victory for her. But it wasn't like a rough experience for me to see it go the other way. It felt very consistent with the film. That's what I was saying earlier about my overall impression. It's like once the film ended, it kind of set in stone for me, like, oh, this is what the journey was. I can see the consistent through line.
Often, I don't think it was majorly enforced at this time. I think a little bit later, but there's that rule in the movies of if a character does a bad thing, they get punished at the end. Like they have to meet their comeuppance.
Is that what this means by it being pre-code? Like pre all of those rules?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a whole bunch of rules with the code, but
I read them like a couple of weeks ago. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like with the Thin Man, where it's like they had, the way...
Don't insult authority. Don't insult religious people.
Exactly.
Whatever,
There's a whole bunch. But she, as mentioned, she gets executed. She gets shot by firing squad. And it made me think about the differences between what we just watched last time and what we watched this time, in which both endings are similar outcome but portrayed very differently. This one isn't portrayed as like pathetic and sad. It's still sad, but it's almost like, head held strong. But what I meant at the beginning too, of like why I was surprised the way they showed it as well, is I assumed that this would be the outcome. I just assumed, well, she's doing this, and then when she made her choice, that would obviously anger the Austrian government. I assumed, well, she's going to die. She's not going to make it out of this movie. I didn't think, oh, well, the guy's going to come back and save her in the end. But I was shocked that they actually showed her getting shot on screen. I just was surprised. I thought it was going to be like, you see them fire and you don't see...
Yeah, like a Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, the moment before the firing happens, sepia tone still frame.
Yeah, or we just focus on the people shooting and then end. You know what happened.
Yeah, or the Blackadder goes fourth ending.
Yeah, exactly. But I was a bit taken aback that we got to see Marlene Dietrich fucking get blasted and fall down.
Yeah.
There was
no like blood or anything.
No, but it's still the effect of it.
They fired, it cut to her. She was standing at the beginning of this shot and she's on the ground at the end.
Yeah, you see her fall onto the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty magnificent stuff. I gotta say, I was like, you know what, guys? You went there. Thank you. You went there.
Even though I've said before, like, I still had it in my head that like the rules weren't in place. There was the question of like, how much are they going to show of this?
Also, not to dance around it, but she's a woman as well. It's a bit of a surprise to see this, small woman who, get absolutely blasted by a row of big guys with guns.
Normally it's male soldiers that you see in firing squads.
Or, the shootout happens and it's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and they're going out on their terms and they're just a couple of maverick guys. Well, here the whole point was Marlene Dietrich was just was a widow who was then forced to have to be the sexy femme fatale who then steps up and decides on her own convictions what she's willing to do and then is punished for that by the powers that be that made her do the things she had to do in the first place. And then we have the moment where that one guy stands up and says, no, this isn't right. This is murder. She's a woman. Like, he points out, like, this is a woman.
Yeah, I refuse to kill a woman. Like, he's acknowledging the thing of, like, this isn't, something that I expect to happen, not something that I want to happen.
And because of just the way that movies work, but also societally speaking, I was taken aback that they actually, not only did they shoot her, that was expected, but that we actually did get to see it on the screen and in this time as well, in 1931.
It was it was a very raw thing to show, like, that actually happening. I was thinking also, the last we see of the antagonist of the film, I've forgotten his name, but the Russian soldier guy, his exit in the film also, when you think back on it, is like very blunt. Like, he escapes and you never see him again.
Do you think he even thinks about her? Do you think he's worried about her? No, maybe not, because they had such a fraught dynamic, especially by the end. But no, and then when we say the antagonist too, like, he is antagonistic, but also like he's still portrayed as a relatively good person.
Oh yeah. It's antagonistic in the, like, very literal, like, literary sense, where he stands against the main character.
But the Austrian Secret Service man who put her in this job, what did you make of his expressions at the end? Because he's there and he has this level of neutral that I kind of found interesting to read into. Like, did you think he was just stoic, apathetic authority, or did you think he felt bad, or was he even touched or perturbed by the speech that this random soldier gave? Like, what did you make of this character? Because he's been throughout the movie a major force, and he is the face, the voice, the embodiment of the things that we've been talking about. But
and he has, like, that stern face, like, the whole film.
But I don't know. I've read his expression near the end to be one of mournfulness.
Well, yeah, he's had the most of the whole Austrian, government secret service. He's the one that's talked to her the most.
He put her there.
Yeah, he put her there. There's definitely got to be some level of, thinking back on the whole experience. He could be wondering, like, where did I go wrong, and realizing right then and there that, like, she was actually consistent in her attitude the whole way through. It actually kind of makes sense that this happened. Maybe he feels regret about himself. Yeah,
and we're being hopeful with these reads.
We can certainly say he's not very happy about the situation. Like, fuck, this spy, we got the spy, and this is her just desserts. Like, no, this was a failure.
Dishonored, the name of the movie too. That, it says it all, and what we're having to contend with, what is honor and what is dishonor. And when the movie is called this, what is it actually trying to say about that in itself, especially with the way this context is provided? Like, we're talking about this character and what she goes through, what she's willing to fight for, but I'm not going to keep skipping over. Like I said, I'm going to keep coming back to, like, this is set in this time period where this idea of honor in war and in all of that matters. So when she comes in as this spy, something that we are very accustomed to being just a normal part of politics and warfare and so on, you have all of these relatively intelligent and well-experienced men of war be taken aback at this level of dirty tactics and dishonor. You, a woman, using your feminine wiles and sexuality? How unbecoming! I'm just a part of a system that kills thousands upon thousands of men every day, but you, on the other hand...
Yeah, in a lot of... In a lot of these stories where you focus on people who do, not necessarily the most moral things, the things that Jesus would approve of, there is
go on.
That was so funny that I kind of lost my train of thought. But I was going for something along the lines of any of these kinds of things where you follow, spies, soldiers, people who murder for a righteous cause. Trying to get back that train of thought. There is a level of acknowledgement that, like, okay, these aren't, your regular citizens. These are people who, have to follow a certain code for a certain, good future. But you do kind of question how good they are if they are in this situation.
Of course.
And that's what has taken them aback here, where this is someone who didn't necessarily walk into this life on her own terms. So when you think of this idea of dishonorable, it's like, from what perspective? You could see, in general, anyone who would be like a soldier or a spy would be generally dishonorable because they're doing immoral things. Is the title from the perspective of the Secret Service? It's like, oh, you were treasonous to our country, how dishonorable. Or, and I think this is what the film is probably more so going for, especially the director, did the Secret Service, did the Austrian government, the Austrian powers dishonor this woman?
Mm-hmm. She was put in there because they saw her as a patriot, and yet they chewed her up and spat her out. They used her as she's a civilian. She's not... But they throw her in here. No, completely on the money. I just think back to like this idea that pervaded war, and especially in narratives of war, but especially the First World War. This idea that there is like this code of conduct that we follow, and a gentlemanly way of doing it. We mentioned it before, but Blackadder Goes Forth is one of the best World War I period TV shows, because although it's very hilarious, it completely nails the lunacy of that idea of like, we march out of the trenches onto the battlefield, gentlemanly getting ourselves killed, because that's just how it is. Well, this film brings in a spy, and it's a woman, and she's using her sensuality and sexuality and her femininity to ascertain things in a way that aren't considered noble and honorable and gentlemanly. But that's the thing about war. That's the thing about politics. Do those things exist? In some ways, yeah. We would like to think that, wouldn't we? We'd like to think, well, there's codes of war we have. Surely, if a nation commits crimes of war, we would all come in and say, nah, that's dishonorable and bad. We would like to think that, wouldn't we? And I'm not even talking about modern day. We can talk about like how we're both Polish, and here we are. It was ink on a page. You signed a treaty, Hitler. Oh, well. There's no, like, the idea that there's dishonor and honor in war is valid, but like it's the levels of this. So I always find it funny in spy stories. When you have like the balking of those, like, oh, you're a spy? How could you do that? That's so unnoble and so icky and gross. I just shoot people with my fucking gun. I blow up bases, or I will fucking stab you with my sword. Or even the fact that, although it's fun, this movie is it does have a lot of fun stuff. This man brings her in and is just like, strip your clothes off for me. And it's done in a very light-hearted way, both characters, but that he has the power to do that. He has the power just to bring in anyone from the street and just order them to do that, because he's a guy with a fancy uniform. That's another thing too. Did you love the costumes of this? Since this is 1915, the paraphernalia and all of the costumes is all in that very garish, regal style. The big helmets with the spikes on top, the badges and the medals and all of that. They're so huge on them. I wish this was in color. Just for that alone.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
That alone, because the poster has it in color, like, they're painted, and it's like in bright red and all of that.
He's like holding her or something,
He's holding
right?
her, and
yes. It's a very teal, like turquoise.
And it's just, that's the only reason I would want to see a color version of this is for the outfits, because they're very decadent.
Yeah, looking at the poster now, it kind of... Because I guess I did have like World War II on the mind while watching it, I was kind of correcting the colors in my head to look a bit more like Nazi-ish, not necessarily like the gray, but more like the olive. But yeah, seeing on this poster, it's like, they were going for like more turquoise things, and the medals are like very yellow, very bright, and even her dress like very velvety red. Yeah,
it's really good stuff, because even visually speaking, you see the distinctions between the military powers. They have these huge shoulders and these spiked helmets and these medals all over them and these sashes, and then you just see regular people.
Yeah, I don't remember the spikes on the helmets, but they definitely had that round look to them.
Yeah. I think where the police at the start, when she called in the police, I think he had like a little spiky helmet, but I may be incorrect. But that is most of what I have to say about Dishonored. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I'd happily watch more of her films. Marlene Dietrich, I thought she was, there's, how to say it? There's movie stars. There's an actor, there's a certain breed that you're like, that's a movie star. And then there's Hollywood movie stars where it's like this era, like, from the talkies, when the talkies first, like even silent era, to like the 1960s. There's a certain golden age of Hollywood type actor that is just above. There's just something very visual about them. You just look at them and you go, I got it. I've got everything under control here. I know what's going on. And with her, it's like you just look at her face.
Are we talking about Marlene or the cat?
The cat, of course. Did you like the cat? Did you want to pet it?
Ryan, this might surprise you, but I liked the cat.
You have a big black cat yourself.
Yeah.
It's not as fluffy, though.
Yeah, my cat's not fluffy.
Have you ever had a fluffy cat?
No. Both cats that we've had at our house have both been, black cats, short hair, so very slick.
Just by happenstance, or is that the desire?
I think the first one, just, that's the way it ended up going. With the second one, I know that because it's actually, 2 or 3 days ago, as of this recording, was the 1-year anniversary of us getting the little cat. Hamlet's the name, if anyone's wondering. And the plan before was, okay, we're going to get a cat, maybe even 2 cats. And it's actually my little brother's cat. So he was, going out getting it. He picked the cat out. He was planning to get some other breeds of cats. So when it ended up being another black cat, there was a little element of like, going through for another very similar choice. Okay. But, not complaining. I love cats.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Not fluffy. I always kind of
more of a medium short hair.
Yeah. It's very slick, like, black and the light makes it kind of shine. I like the shine.
Nice.
And it's very smooth to like pet if you're going, with the flow
with
of
the flow.
Yeah, but every time I see a fluffy cat, it's like, oh, this is something different, I don't normally pet cats like this. It feels nice being able to go either way.
Very good. Would you recommend Dishonored?
Yeah, I would recommend Dishonored. The cat's great.
Meow.
But yeah, the film also very good. This was another one kind of similar to what we were doing with The Green Knight. I like this one more than The Green Knight.
Really?
Yes.
Both very silent movies.
Both very silent films. No, what I was going to say was with The Green Knight, I kind of drew the line and sound like I didn't really like it, but I appreciate so much about it. And thinking back on that episode, I was kind of like, hey, man, I'm really insistent on the fact that I didn't like it, even though I really grew to appreciate it in the end. This one was one where I was like, film was okay. Well, didn't love it, but as we've talked about it once again, it's like, man, there was just so much great stuff in here. And especially just thinking about how that ending complemented everything. How it was consistent with the main character, and this main character really is the center of everything. It was also kind of reminding me, as we were talking about it a little bit, of the manga Fist of the North Star, where
I've heard of that.
Yes.
I don't know too much.
No, I talked about it a little bit in Inside Out, of all things, where it's the one that Mad Max, was a copy of, kind of, where the main character's strength comes from their sadness. And I was thinking of that a little bit when talking about this character, because, all of her actions were dictated by who she is as a person, what she's lost in the past.
But she's trying to put on this brave face, this seductive. Yeah. We've had quite the range of movies this year. You and I were talking about this before we recorded.
Yeah, I was
just being
thinking
like,
about that.
have we had a recurring actor, and it's been Conan O'Brien. But we've had such a wide array of things, and it's mainly because we've been having to look back at older movies, because I said, like, this is a year of older movies, and we've made sure not to just choose older Hollywood movies. We've gone to different countries, Czech and German and Japanese, American, so on. And I hope we still, as the year rolls on, we'll find more old films from maybe some other countries that we haven't thought about, maybe even Australia. We haven't done any old Australian movies, but I just, I think everyone, you should check this movie out. I think it's a very specific taste, but it is just one of those ones that grows on you the more you think about it. But Yep, that is Dishonored.
Yeah,
But,
we didn't mention earlier this episode, like, we're going to be talking spoilers and all. But in a way, I don't really regret that. I think you can still appreciate this film, even if you've heard us talk about it. You know exactly what happens. I think there's probably an appeal there too.
There is. Bartek, you've been a good boy because you didn't make the reference to the video game Dishonored during this discussion.
Yeah, I was
threatened to before we record, but then you held it in.
No, I was planning to do it during the synopsis. So my plan of attack was to say, the main character gets recruited into a secretive organization, and they have to take down targets. And then I was going to unnaturally go into, you have a choice of doing it lethally or non-lethally. And it's going to be like, what's he talking about?
And the main character's name is Corvo.
Yeah, and I was going to throw in Corvo somewhere there, and it was going to be this nice little journey. But the way that you led me into talking about it, I was like, no, we've got a good flow going. I'll just do it normally.
We've got to respect the film and leave Corvo for his eventual film starring Michael Fassbender.
Yes. When you started this episode with Meow Meow, I thought like, we're going to go for a silly route with this one, but then it kind of deviated away.
Like the movie. Remember there was a meow scene and then 10 minutes later the main character got executed by gunfire? Oh boy. Well, Bartek, the next episode is a film from the listening people.
Yes.
It is a very important film. It is a film from someone that we talked about a lot last episode, because the character in that last episode's discussion's name was also this person's.
Marchek. What's he got on? Oh, is it the bucket list?
We got to do the bucket list. Let's do a film about old people. Let's do it. Not old film, but a film about olds. Next time on the podcast. Bucket list. I've never seen it. I know of it. Okay. A claim to fame from Bartek. I've seen it once.
Yeah, I saw it at school.
Oh, one of those where they put it on as like a little treat?
Yeah, it wasn't for a class. It was for I don't know what.
End of school term.
No. I think every school has a version of this. Ours was called House RE. It was like a year 12 period where it was not like an education subject, but like, I don't know, life enrichment or I don't know, socialization kind of subject.
Okay. No, I don't think I had one of those.
No, I'm probably not explaining it well.
When you threw RE in there, I'm like, it doesn't sound like we're going to have a lot of people that have it.
Exactly, that's what I meant. Like RE, religious education. They called it House RE for year 12 of my school.
But you watched it there.
Yeah, so it was just like, it was a very miscellaneous period that would happen like once or twice a week. And for one of them, it was like, let's all get together and watch the bucket list or something.
We shall watch the bucket list, revisit our old friends Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Wow.
I listening people, recently I've been taking Japanese classes, and in the second lesson a lot of the focus was on asking about, how old is this person? This person is this many years old. And in the class, the teacher had a PowerPoint with a bunch of different, celebrities, well-known people. And one of the people in one of the things was Morgan Freeman.
Star of Lucy.
Yes, Star of Lucy. And I was very shocked when the person I partnered up with for this activity told me that he was, what was it?
A fan?
Hachiju Hasai years old, which meant 88. And I was putting in my head like, okay, that means 88. And I was like thrown off like, whoa, he's 88?
Yeah, Morgan Freeman's up there.
He's been around for a while, but still just hearing it.
He was in Evan Almighty, which we covered on the podcast.
That's true,
yeah. Creator, God.
Yeah, the G-Man.
The G-Man.
The father of that Jesus who led me astray this episode.
Could you imagine if Morgan Freeman took over the role of G-Man if they ever did Half-Life 3? He's a G-Man, right?
I've never played it.
You never played?
I know that there's a guy called G-Man, but
there you
I
go.
don't know anything
I've
about
never
him.
played them either. I thought you would, from your gamer knowledge, be like, yeah, that's correct.
I haven't played many Valve games. I think I've only played Portal.
Not even the second one?
No, just Portal.
Are there many Valve games? Isn't there like three main ones?
All the Half-Lives, Portal, Portal 2.
And Team Fortress.
Team Fortress 2,
That's
I
it,
guess.
right? Those are the main ones. I'm not as knowledgeable. I think that's like the main ones, and they're all like ones with like 2 games.
I feel like there's another obvious one, but I can't think of it.
Valve,
right now.
write in. Let us know. What other games have you made? We're not talking about Steam, just games that you have made, Valve. Did you do a game that we're forgetting? Are you going to say, actually, Ryan, did you know that we did Crash Bandicoot's spin-off game, Crash Bash? That was us.
Oh, wow.
I didn't-
You guys created Rillaroo?
Wow, you guys gave me Space Bash, one of my favorite levels in a video game. I love Space
It's a
Bash.
fun level, yeah.
It's a fun level.
Listening to people, Ryan and I did not grow up together. We, met each other as adults in university, but we both had the backstory of, like, we had Crash Bash, we liked it, and our favorite level was Space Bash.
I really want to wrap the episode there and just end it. But no, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to check us out on whatever podcasting sites you use and are available. Make sure to share, let people know, rate and review, leave a comment. You can contact us with your own film recommendations or let us know your thoughts through those social medias of Facebook and Twitter, or you can leave a comment on YouTube. And we have an email address if you want to hit us up more directly. What's that email, Bartek?
The email is spitandpolished@gmail.com.
That is it for today. Bartek, anything you want to leave us on? Anything you want to let the listening people know about or inform me?
Valve made Counter-Strike.
Oh,
I never really
there
thought
you
about
go.
like who made Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
And I think it said here that they also made Left 4 Dead. That's probably the obvious one. And also one that didn't go to 3. There's the first and second game.
Did they ever make any like more than 3? I'm not going to count fucking Half-Life Alyx and that. That's a separate Half-Life.
Well, they made a bunch of like Half-Lives, but didn't call it 3, right?
I guess.
When
I
did-
actually don't know that. I just know that they made the first 2 and then
Like, they
Alyx,
made-
and then they're like fan ones trying to fill in shit.
Yeah, the one with IHE.
Yeah.
Is Alex the VR one?
Yeah.
I think people were saying that one's kind of like a 3.
But it's also not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a Valve head either. I've played the first 2. I've played the 2 Portal games. That's it. I've never played any other Valve.
I remember there was one time a guy that I went to school with had me play a little bit of Left 4 Dead, but I don't even really think that much of it.
You're not a
Yeah.
zombie guy.
No, I mean, it was an alright game, and I've appreciated zombie stuff more, but it's just that experience was just so brief that it's like, oh, yeah, I guess I've played that a tiny bit. But yeah, I guess, Counter-Strike, I didn't know that was Valve, and yeah, Left 4 Dead was the one that I was
All right.
missing out on.
Valve, I'm looking forward to you rebooting the Dishonored games. Now you can take up the mantle and make the one about Corvo as a femme fatale seductress. I know in the second game that you actually get to play as a woman, but I'm
It's
wanting
the little girl
Corvo-
from the first game, right?
Yeah. And now she's like the queen or regent queen or whatever. You guys come back, take over that, because now Dishonored's up for grabs because their production, their developers are dead.
Yeah.
And now you can bring it back, and Corvo can do this film.
Yeah. And if you don't want to make a third game, do what Al Lowe, the creator of Leisure Suit Larry, did when having to make the 4th game. He's like,
Skip it.
I don't know how to make the 4th game. I'll just make the 5th game. And there is no 4th game.
Or, as Bartek and I joked before doing this, you could call this, you could recreate this film and call it Dishonored 0, and it'll be like Yakuza 0, where it's just a prequel.
Yeah.
Well, how did Corvo get those luscious locks?
Yeah, you need the backstory of how things got established. That's why you need more films like Cruella.